online or mobile banking questions, home equity loans, HELOCs, personal and auto loans, and everyday banking. We are conveniently located, open Saturdays, and our drive-up has extended weekday hours. Stop in and see us at our Westside branch, First National Bank, your local community bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome to Moving Forward, sponsored by MPW Mocklink TV and Mocklink Internet, online at mpw.org. Each weekday morning, our local talk segment brings you the people who are helping move our community forward. Let's start the show.
AM 860, FM 95.1, KWPC. I'm Jordan Davis. Thanks for joining us this morning for Moving Forward here on this Thursday. Once again, it's brought to you by Muscatine Power and Water. Experience the best value in entertainment and connectivity with Mocklink Internet and TV from MPW. New subscribers save big on TV or Internet. Even more when you take both. Learn more at mpw.org. Again, I'm Jordan Davis. This is Moving Forward. And I'm joined in studio this morning by Mike Hutchison from Iowa Parrot Rescue. How are you this morning, Mike?
Hello, good morning.
We're very excited to have you on because we want to talk a little bit about what it is that you do. I sat and I spoke with you for just a couple of minutes before we got started here, and I learned a lot about your operation. Now, I had no idea even existed here in this area. And you said, you mentioned that you guys are kind of the only operation here between a couple,
We are the only licensed parrot shelter in Iowa, and really the only completely functioning one right now between Chicago and Denver.
Wow. And that's a lot of territory to cover. And,
it's bigger than we would like, really.
Yeah, and you said you've got birds maybe from almost 18 states?
We have birds right now in the shelter from 18 different states, yeah.
Wow. And, I saw it and we talked a little bit about, just all the different ages that you have of birds. But, I was baffled. What was the number again? How long can some of these birds live?
Well, we know that there have been Amazon parrots that have lived to be 116. The record for a macaw is 110. Big cockatoos frequently live to be 80. It's astounding how long they can live.
Yeah, that's crazy because you think about any other animal or any other animal that's that size. Cats and dogs only live 13, 14 years to be that long, but a bird can live almost 100 years. That's crazy.
They are doing some new research just recently that is talking about some of the neurological functions that parrots have that allow them to live that long.
Okay. That's really interesting. It's just such a strange thing to imagine just a bird being around that long. Because the only other animal that really comes to mind besides humans is turtles living, crazy long times. But birds are right up there with them. That's insane. So one clarification I want to make. So you guys are Iowa Parrot Rescue. One thing that I wasn't 100% sure on was what all was constituted by a parrot. But so can you run through those just real quick?
Well, a parrot is defined biologically as a bird that has a hooked bill, has a hammer-shaped tongue, and most importantly has 2 toes in front and 2 toes on the back of the foot. Okay. You put those 3 features together, and it's a parrot.
Okay.
So that would take in everything from your little parakeet budgeriegars up to the biggest macaws.
Okay, I really like those budgies. Those are cute little critters. I really enjoy. And that's one thing I'd like to talk about today is have folks having them as pets. What are some things that they should know, but then what are some things that you think people should be aware of before they even consider getting one? That kind of thing.
Well, it's a thing that we often have to counsel people about when they're first thinking about starting to get into birds. First off, they need socialization. Parrots are flock animals. You cannot just get a bird, put it in a cage, and look at it. They need interaction. They need handling. They need exercise. A parrot really doesn't do very well if they never get out of the cage. They are going to be messy. They are going to need toys that they can chew up and destroy. They're gonna make noise. Mm-hmm. There are no silent parrots, and some of them are god awful noisy. So you have to think about all those things, and then you have to consider how long they live, because this is an animal that, if you get one, is going to be around basically your whole life. they have the intelligence level of a human 3 to 5 year old. They have the hormonal drives of a human teenager. They can, the bigger ones can chew through a 2x4 in 5 minutes. They can fly. It's kind of like having an autistic 3-year-old who carries a knife and can fly and will never, ever grow up and leave home.
Wow.
So you have to think about all those things.
Yeah. Well, so now that we've kind of described what the animal is and what it's like to have them, tell us what it is that Iowa Parrot Rescue does.
Well, we take in birds that, in most cases, people are no longer able to care for them. Maybe they've gotten sick or too old or had a change in their living conditions, whatever. They have to give up their bird. Very much the same kinds of reasons why anybody would bring a dog or a cat to the Humane Society. We also receive birds from animal control and law enforcement because they have been seized in hoarder busts or drug busts or smuggling busts. And we make sure first that the birds are healthy. We take them to our vet and get them checked out, lab work, and so on. Then we want them to try to become secure, happy, and then we look for a new home for them. And in the meantime, we just give them the best care and environment that we can while we have them.
And one thing you mentioned before that caught me by surprise was that you guys are volunteer driven. It's all volunteer.
It's entirely volunteer. We have up to date never had a person who was actually employed by the rescue, and volunteers come from all over the area. We have volunteers from the Quad Cities, Iowa City, Washington, Cedar Rapids, Muscatine, Wilton, and we keep it going.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting thing because you guys are very different from like the Humane Society and like those kind of pet shelters, because your sole focus is these big birds, or well, big to the little ones, but you guys mainly focus on the bigger ones like the macaws and the.
We basically, from the conures and Senegals, those birds up to the macaws, the smaller ones, the lovebirds, budgies, those kind of birds. The animal controls and the humane societies are able to handle them. They don't need a lot of room. They don't need a lot of space, and they're not physically dangerous. Our space is limited, so we kind of have to reserve it for the bigger and more challenging birds.
Right, give them a little bit more space so you can have bigger enclosures for them, that kind of thing, and the smaller birds probably for the socialization that they can get when they're at the pet shelter. You see them in those big. It's almost always the same kind of big box with the glass and the lighting in the top with like little twigs and stuff hanging out along the inside.
Yeah, and the other thing is that the smaller birds are easier to find homes for. They just aren't as demanding or as again dangerous.
Yeah, intimidating
as the bigger
is the
ones.
word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get people all the time who contact us and they want to get into having a parrot, and they say, well, I want a macaw because the macaws are the biggest and the fanciest. And they come in and then they look at that beak and they look at the space and the amount of mess that is created. And, well, maybe not. Maybe something smaller.
And those, because you think about too, those are, I've heard those birds shriek, and it is, oh wow.
Yeah, they really literally can do hearing damage if you're around them very much.
What's your general take on folks having them as pets? Like I understand that it's kind of a weird line for you to ride because you've got birds there that you're pretty good buddies with, like you really enjoy, right?
I've got birds that would live inside my clothing with me 24/7 if they could. I've got birds that seriously would spend their whole life climbing on me and snuggling. And I've got other birds that actually would kill me if they could get at me, and try to on a daily basis. The thing that people have to keep in mind is that parrots are not domesticated animals. They don't have hundreds of thousands of years of evolution and conditioning to be around people. At most, they may be 2 or 3 generations out of the jungle. And they have all of the fears, needs, instincts of a wild animal. So when you are trying to make friends with one of them, you have to think about that. It's very much like making friends with a bear or a cougar. You can do it with some of them.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you have some birds that were born in the jungle with you right now.
Probably about a dozen in the shelter right now that are still older import wild-caught birds. Yeah.
But all that trade's been shut down, right? There's no imports coming.
There are no legal imports coming, with a few exceptions for scientific purposes, and there are certain species that can still be commercially imported. But for the most part, legal imports of parrots were stopped in 1992. Now, there is still a lot of smuggling. There's a great deal of illegal poaching. It's one of the bigger dangers to some of the species in the wild, and many of them are still imported into the country illegally. We have at least 2 in the shelter right now that I know of that were smuggled. And they're sold on the black market. They're sold out of the backs of trucks, and they're sold by unethical retailers.
Yeah, and that's such a terrible thing to think of those critters having to come straight out of their natural habitat and come and be sold to somebody as their pet. So it's seemingly so much different from cats and dogs who, like you said, have had all these years of conditioning to be kept by people, and they want to be. Dogs love being around people. They want to be part of that whatever they call it now. I don't know if they. I heard somebody said it the other day. Like the dogs think of it as pack mentality. With when living with a human, they want that. So but it's a totally different ballgame when it comes to these birds.
It is. You can create a situation where you are part of the bird's flock. Because they are flock animals, they need to be around ideally around other birds. But there's an old saying that dogs have masters and cats have staff. Well, parrots have slaves.
No kidding. They're in charge.
They are definitely in charge. You cannot punish a parrot. You cannot make them quit doing something. They're going to do what they're going to do. You have to learn what that bird is going to do, and then you adapt your life to it.
Wow. So they're certainly demanding animals. So I imagine you guys run into it all the time where you're receiving birds from folks that just weren't up to the challenge.
That does happen, although it's not the biggest part of our intake.
Really? Okay.
There are horror stories out there all the time of people who did an impulse buy on a parrot and then found out that they didn't really like what they were getting into, and so they give it up. And 20 years ago when we started, there was more of that going on.
Oh, really?
Okay. But I had a woman 18 years ago brought me a macaw because she had redecorated and it didn't go with her drapes anymore.
Wow.
But nowadays, by far the majority of the birds that we get are people whose lives have changed. And, you can't do anything about that.
Yeah,
John Lennon said, life is what happens while you're making other plans. I've got a sick baby, or I've got a new wife, or I lost my job. Well, here comes the bird.
Right. So how many birds did you say that you guys actually have in your care right now?
We have 68 in the shelter this morning. 68. And over the last 21 years, we have handled almost 1,100.
Wow, that's a lot of birds, and that's I'm sure part of that is you guys move. You try to get them into new homes too. If they're
We hope that we will find homes for them. Yes.
Yeah. That's excellent. Do you guys ever do work with like zoos and stuff like that, or is that where you'd want those birds to go? Or?
Virtually never. Zoos want parrots, but they have a different behavior set, a different kind of parrot that they want than what comes to us.
Okay. So generally not pets?
No.
Gotcha.
In general, when a zoo has parrots, they are looking for as close to natural behaviors as they can get.
I gotcha. That makes sense.
You will find a few where you go into a zoo and they've got a walk-in aviary with very commonly lorikeets or lories who will fly down to you and you feed them out of a cup of nectar or something like that.
Wow.
But, they don't want macaws and Amazons that are demanding human interaction. That interferes with what a zoo is trying to do.
Right.
So, no, we don't really have very much to do with that end of it.
Gotcha. I just wondered because you think about folks that are trying to get trying to figure out where the best spot is to go for a bird. You never think well maybe the zoo's not the best place because like you said there's so much more demanding especially that human interaction that they don't really want to see at the zoo. Yeah.
And we do get a lot of people calling us who have said, well, I talked to the local zoo, but they won't take my bird. Most of the parrot species are fairly common in captivity, and the zoos have got what they want or need. There are some that are endangered and a few that some zoos will take, but in general, they've got what they want.
Yeah. Well, Mike, this has been really interesting. This has been a really cool discussion because it's something I admire birds. I think they're really cool. I love to I like to admire them from afar because I don't think that they're a right fit for me as a pet for sure. But I really enjoy getting to see some. I make a trip every now and then when I am at the zoo. I go into the aviary every chance that I get because they're just really cool creatures. But they are. It's certainly been interesting talking to you to hear about all the different things that you've had to deal with just with being part of this parrot rescue. So let's make sure we mention how folks, if anybody needs to contact you for any reason, maybe they're looking to adopt a parrot, maybe they're looking to maybe they've got any reason to give one up, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, they can hit our Facebook page, which is Iowa Parrot Rescue. They can hit our website, which is www.iowaparrotrescue.org. If people want to come and visit us, we do need an appointment so that we can schedule them around our feeding and cleaning. And our website does have a page about how to schedule that. And have a look at our website for contact information. Phone number and emails are on there.
Excellent.
And we're only 14 miles outside Muscatine.
No kidding. Yeah, you just right over in Wilton, right?
No, we're actually just north and west of Letts.
Oh, no, I don't know why I had Wilton in my head. That was totally wrong. I apologize. I don't know why I had Wilton in my head. Maybe I was thinking of another thing that we've got going on this week. But that was really cool. All the stuff that you guys do and you're volunteer led. What a cool organization. What a cool group that you are.
Well, come and visit us someday.
Absolutely. I definitely will. I'd love to come see the birds. I'll be sure to make an appointment.
Bring a microphone.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for joining us here this morning. It was a real pleasure to get to talk to you about the Iowa Parrot Rescue.
Thank you for having me.
Mike Hutchison joined us from Iowa Parrot Rescue to talk about what they do, taking care of all of those birds that they do. Currently 68, he said, in with them right now. What an incredible thing that they're doing, and so cool to get to work with all those birds. But again, this is Moving Forward, brought to you by Muscatine Power and Water. Mocklink is always Muscatine's fastest internet, and gigabit speed is coming. Mocklink TV beats satellite and includes video and music streaming. New subscribers save big, even more when you bundle. Learn more at mpw.org. Again, I'm Jordan Davis. Thanks for joining us here for the voicemuscatine.com. Moving forward.
We'd like to thank MPW Digital TV and Mocklink Internet, the local providers, for sponsoring Moving Forward on KWPC AM 860, FM 95.1, the voice of Muscatine. If you have a suggestion for a guest, we'd like to hear from you. Call our business line at 263-2442 or click mail at voiceofmuscatine.com. It's Moving Forward, weekdays at 8:15.